Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I'm the host of the Be Real Babe show, and today, you guys, it is the final Keeping Up with Canada for a couple months. Oh, we're so excited. Gonna be taking a break here, but not today. Today I'm not taking a break. Today I have 4 different stories for you, kind of all over the place as per usual, but the cases that I wanted to make sure that I was talking about before I left today. So one is about a local repeat offender here in Kelowna that is just continuously over time getting arrested for a bunch of different things and being let go to continue being a menace to society. We're also going to be talking about an unfortunate stabbing that happened in Calgary in a love triangle kind of situation. We're also going to be talking about a story about maids and if you've been around here for a while, you know how I feel about the lines that are getting crossed with this service. And I think we've crossed that line here. And I guess I'm just curious to what end. So we're going to talk about that story. And then we're going to end with a missing person case that has been brought to the surface again. And because I just released an episode on the podcast and a series called Being Real About Missing People Canada. And I just did the BC edition this last Friday. Not this last Friday, the Friday before. I thought that I would end the episode and the season here on the channel with a missing persons case, just to kind of leave that in the forefront of your memory. So if you're interested in listening to those stories, stick around and we'll jump right in. Okay, babes. So, as mentioned, this is going to be the last Keeping Up with Canada episode for a couple months. If you're new here, I'm just about to take a break because I have been going hard every week for 5 months straight. And every season, I take about a month's break and I come back. This season, meaning on the podcast, and then I kind of stop the show in the meantime. And then I upload the podcast in the break of the YouTube channel just so that I can have some downtime. And this time, I'm going to be taking an extended break because I need to learn a few things and I need to just be quiet. I just need to not record myself, not hear myself, none of that. Just be quiet for 2 weeks straight, not plan anything, not anything, not think, not research, just be. I'm very excited, although I am very, very grateful for all the listens, all the support, everything like that. I am on a really good pace right now, and it feels really counterproductive to take a break, but I know that burnout does happen, and I'm starting to feel that way, and I think everybody that makes content and works a full-time job also understands that as well. And I also have something really cool that I'm working on a project, the Be Real Collective. If you want to go follow that on Instagram, I'm going to be bringing you some, well, I guess I will be recording myself, but in a different aspect, and I'm going to be bringing some of my crazy energy into your living room. So I'm super excited for that, super excited for the break. But today, Keeping Up with Canada one more time. And then Wednesday, we're going to do Internet Insanity. And then after that, on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the next 2 months, you will be getting the podcast that was on Apple, Spotify, and Rumble the last 5 months. Season 10 of the Be Real Babe podcast. Amazing interviews. Very excited. And if you rather listen to the show, there is nearly a year's worth of content back. You can go back and look at old stories, although they're not going to be necessarily new. There is a lot of content of stuff that has happened in Canada and Internet Insanity and 250 episodes of the podcast. So lots to consume. I super appreciate any listens in the break. Really appreciate you guys being here and listening. But let's get to these final stories. So the first story that I have for you guys today, I thought was super interesting because, as per usual, one thing I really appreciate, our MLA, Christina, she is always sharing articles. She's always sharing news. She's always sharing the concerns of everyone in Kelowna. So this article came up because she shared it. And then as I was searching this individual, this one repeat offender here, just in the screenshot I have here, there is 3 different articles. The article I'm reading today is 2026, but 2023 February. So February 23rd, 2023, Kelowna man sentenced to Rutland home invasion. March 4th, 2019, 5 arrested in connection with alleged kidnapping in Kelowna. And then January 15th, 2021, 2 Kelowna men arrested after Rutland home invasion. Oh, so obviously that's a sentencing, but it's just crazy that this one individual has so much on them. So, and I guess the reason why I want to bring it up is because I kind of want to just leave a few thoughts with everyone before I take my break. And I obviously want to reassess what I'm doing on the show and all that for Keeping Up with Canada. I'm still always going to be talking about what's going on here once a week because I think it's super important. But I guess one big thing is repeat crime. That is one thing that I keep seeing here, is that it's just repeat crime all the time, and they're just released out on bail, offend again. Really, and it's just this rinse and repeat. And I guess I'm just curious, what the heck do we do? Like, how do we just keep letting people out that we know are going to be menaces to society? And I've talked about this on the show before. I don't always just think that jail is the right way, but at the same time, it's like, what is going on? Why are you being such a fuck? Why are you being such a fucking menace? What is happening? What are you missing in your life? Were you not hugged as a child? Are you having some like ego issues? Is there some trauma? Is there drug abuse? Is there what's the pain that you are suffering that you are then inflicting pain on other people? You know? And maybe if we kind of come at it like that, is there a chance that we can maybe with both, being incarcerated but doing this at the same time, treating people like they're humans, and obviously something's happened. I don't think people just are born well, some, but are born criminals, right? So like what is happening here? But let's get into this article. This was published on January 8th. Longtime Kelowna offender granted bail after new drug charges. A Kelowna man with a lengthy criminal record was released on bail this week after he was charged with the new drug trafficking offenses. Clayton Zeleniski, 55, was arrested earlier this week after he was charged with 5 counts of possessing drugs for the purpose of trafficking and resisting arrest stemming from a May 18, 2025 incident. While the details of the charges are not clear, Crown Prosecutor Ranjit Randhawa told the court Tuesday that Zeleniski was found with 250 grams of methamphetamine, 270 grams of fentanyl, and 172 grams of cocaine. I would die. Yeah, I can't even take Advil anymore. Zeleniski, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but you're a criminal, so I don't know if I feel that bad, has been on probation since February 2023 when he struck a plea deal with the Crown over a 2021 home invasion in Kelowna's Rutland area. He was sentenced to a time served followed by 3 years probation. During Zeleniski's bail hearing Tuesday, Randhawa consented to Zeleniski's release on bail despite acknowledging his criminal record. But he said Zeleniski's record is unrelated to the new drug charges he faces, and his criminal record is mainly related to crimes of violence and mostly recently a break and entering conviction. I guess, like, from my understanding, there's some sort of thing where it's like you can't look at the other cases. But again, like, how do you not? It's like, oh, you know, this guy just stole something. It's not a big deal. I mean, he has murdered someone before, but that's a separate case. We're talking about this little theft, and it's just a little theft. So, like, well, who cares? Like, what? And again, I'm an idiot. What does this mean? I also think during my break, I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce words. I think growing up in French immersion really messed me up of saying names. So again, apologies always I feel like I just need to make up names for people just so I don't sound so stupid. Apologies. I don't know if I'll ever get over it, but I'm going to practice. I'm going to try harder. But unfortunately, these little news stories, like you don't hear these names, so I can't just go and figure out how. Anyway, Randhawa and Zeleniski was allegedly found with a rather significant amount of drugs, making the charges not a low-level type offense. The Crown is seeking a significant type of bail plan, but the significant bail plan the Crown sought included a $200 cash deposit and conditions that Zeleniski not use drug or possess weapons. As the Crown supported Zeleniski's release, Judge Clark Burnett granted him bail with a $200 deposit. According to online court records, Zeleniski is also facing outstanding charges of breaching his probation on October 30th, 2025, and driving while prohibited on August 8th, 2025. The context of these charges is not known at this time. He's scheduled to appear next in Kelowna court on his outstanding charges later this month. Prior to his 2023 home invasion conviction, Zeleniski was involved in several other high-profile incidences in Kelowna. He was arrested in January 2020 during a police raid in Rutland and charged with possessing a number of weapons and methamphetamine. And we're shocked that he's back. Am I being gaslit? It's clear. I can understand your first charges. Okay, you made a mistake. Maybe you'll learn the first time. But how many times? How many times when we have such a fucking drug problem? He struck a plea deal with the Crown and was sentenced to time served for possessing a firearm. Prior to that, he had been charged in connection to an alleged February 2019 kidnapping after a man had been dropped off at Kelowna General Hospital suffering severe injuries. Zeleniski was one of 5 people who've been charged by the Crown Zelensky was one of the 5 people who'd been charged, but the Crown stayed the charges against all of the accused before the matter ever got to trial. The Crown never disclosed why the charges were dropped. Back in 2017, Zelensky was also convicted of his role in an attack on a man in Rutland, in which the man was shot and beaten with a sledgehammer. Zelensky's extensive criminal record dates back to 1995. Like, can someone in the comment section explain to me, like I'm 5 years old, why an individual who has been around and involved in all of these situations, convicted, mind you, just gets slaps on the wrist? Like, why is it that we're not stacking charges once you have more convictions? What is the deterrent of being a repeat offend criminal? Can someone explain to me what it is? Because like in these situations it doesn't seem like it matters. And like, why wouldn't we look at how this person is affecting society in its entirety, not just case by case? Like, again, I can understand first charges. Sure. I can understand maybe minor things, but these are not minor. These are major things. Why is this not taking more seriously? I do not understand. And it makes me so fucking upset. Okay. Now, let's go on to Alberta. We're going to move to Alberta. So, jealous rage led to the brutal beating and fatal stabbing of the Calgary man during a tragic love triangle. Victim's girlfriend broke up with him the night before the killing. So, this was published January 2026. A homicidal jealous rage and unrequited love for a Calgary woman led to the fatal stabbing of a city man who didn't resist the deadly assault court heard Friday. Murder suspect Dominic Hood pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of manslaughter in connection with the death of Marshall Rath and what turned out to be a love triangle involving the dead man's ex-girlfriend. Court heard Jonathan Smith had broke up with Rath the day before his February 22nd, 2022 killing. 2/22/2022. Killing at the hands of Hood, but was still living in the downtown apartment they shared when he was slain. Smith broke up with Rath the night before his death. Crown prosecutor Elise Doherty told Justice Nancy Dilts after Hood, 33, entered a plea guilty before the Calgary Court of King's Bench judge. The breakup was difficult for Rath because he was still in love with Smith. The day before Rath's death, Smith made a video of her striking Rath in the face with a chain wrapped around her fist, Doherty said. Okay, she made a video. Sorry. I was like, if this was posted, why weren't people questioning these things? Like, but sorry. She just made a video. It didn't say it was posted. My bad. That freaked me out for a second. The video shown earlier during Smith's sentencing for manslaughter depicted Rath taking the blow without resistance. She was handed the equivalent of a 6-year sentence last June. Right after Smith ended her relationship with Rath, Smith reconnected with her ex-boyfriend Dominic Hood. The two agreed to meet at the apartment she shared with the victim at 5 a.m. on the morning of the killing, the time Rath usually returned home from work. Over the course of the morning, Smith and Hood were in contact with the woman's cousin in Quebec, Harriet Johnson, the prosecutor said. Hood asked Johnson questions about Smith and Rath's relationship and grew increasingly upset and jealous. Hood's jealousy of Smith and Rath's relationship caused him to assault Mr. Rath. The assaults began in the living room, causing Rath to retreat into his bedroom. Hood then assaults Mr. Rath in the bedroom. He punches Rath approximately 5 times over the course of an hour. Meanwhile, Smith photographed Rath's injuries and sent the pictures to Johnson, who later called police after her concerns for him. During the assault, Smith left and returned to the apartment several times while Hood continued his attack. At no point did Rath fight back against Hood. During a break in the attack, Hood went out on the balcony for a smoke before returning and resuming the assault, this time using a knife, stabbing Mr. Rath numerous times with a black folding knife, the court heard. Johnson, who was still on the phone with Smith, heard her say to Hood, "It's you I want. I don't care about him. It's you I want. I love you, baby." So that then means, like, if you wanted to be with him, why wouldn't the two of you just skedaddle? And even if you had nowhere to go, why couldn't you just tell him to get out And if you didn't get out, something bad was going to happen. Not saying that then you should then resort to, I'm not saying that, but what the fuck? Why couldn't this person just go and exist? Like, you didn't even give the individual one day to move on or do any of that. I just, I am sorry. When this shit happens, I am not a girl's girl. I'm not. I'm not. You're a piece of shit. The two killers then left the apartment, leaving Rath behind. Rath crawls from the bedroom to the bathroom where he dies alone. Calgary police, acting on information Johnson provided authorities in Quebec, eventually tracked down the crime scene that evening. A note written by Mr. Rath on an unknown date was on his bedroom and seized by the police. The note indicates that he was in love with Smith. Both Doherty and the defense lawyer Rebecca Snukel agreed Hood's attack amounted to a near murder, justifying a sentence of 11 and a half years. Snukel told Dilts her client is entitled to credit for 480 days of pre-sentence credit. Dilts will hand down a sentencing decision later this month. When I came across this story, I was like, my heart goes out to the family. My heart goes out to him. You want to break up with people? Break up with people. You want to be jealous? Be jealous. You do not need to assault and abuse people. You do not need to, like, what does that do? My curious is what happened to you as a child that you felt you needed to do this? When you got the girl, why couldn't you just walk away? Take her, go. Why does it lead to someone's life being taken? It makes me so sad because it sounds like this beating behavior, like he just took it. It sounded like this was like something, if he was just taking it, obviously it wasn't the first time. I'm not a girl's when I hear this shit. I'm just not. Sorry. And rest in peace. And I'm sorry to his family and friends. And I hope this is a justice. I mean, I'd say life in prison would have been better in my opinion. But now onto a story that, this is such a divided conversation here in Canada, because I don't believe that majority of Canadians will ever disagree that maids for end of life situations is a question. That is something that we have all seen for a very long time. And I don't believe anybody has ever argued that. I think what happens is that people who know somebody that have had this service, especially at end of life, especially that was suffering, has quote unquote a positive experience. And therefore it makes it very difficult, because it is very difficult to watch someone obviously go through those types of things. I'm not saying that. But I think sometimes too, I don't want to say there's color glasses on, but at the same time, sometimes individuals that have had a positive experience with MAID and those services refuse to see that other people have had negative experiences, and that there is lines that are being crossed. And I think we're there. So I've reported on this for several years now on the podcast, talking about the progression of MAIDs, and I've ad nauseum repeated that I believe for end of life, I think people should have the choice, especially if there are no treatments, there's nothing left. But there's a line where they're really trying to push, especially in Quebec, where they're talking about extending that to mindful minors as well as mental health. And unfortunately, I just think that's a slippery slope, because for the majority of the time, there are treatments for mental health. Now, whether that's allopathic, whether you decide to go, more of a natural route therapy, that, at this time there's a lot. And until you've exhausted all of those things, I really don't think that MAID should be just conversation. Now, you can hate me and say, oh, you've never been in that position, nor do you get to say that for other people. And that's fine. You can say that, and that's all well and good. But I think that there's a level of, yeah, I've had different experiences where I've come to that. And I know people that have come to very close situations like that. And if this option was available then, my worry is that they would take it, and I've watched them move on and grow and live beautiful lives. So my worry is when people are in their darkest moment and there's no one really checking, balancing, because with mental health, people don't always talk about it till it's really too late. We see that with suicide. This is just another avenue that I'm worried that people will just get lost and trapped up in. And, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, you guys, but there's definitely a lot of organ transplanting and things like that are going on. And I'm not saying that that's leading to that, but there's just always certain services, products, situations that are born out of true innocence and beauty, and the wrong people take advantage of it. And There's articles you can go see where they're talking about, like, is this turning into some sort of organ harvesting situation because of the amount of that is happening and the people that they're convincing and the stories that we're hearing that are coming out. And again, if you have a positive experience with MAID, I'm so happy for you. I guess, like, it sounds like a weird thing to say, but I'm glad that it wasn't terrible. But I would just urge you, when you have the capacity, to look at those that have not had the good experiences and some of the very disturbing situations that it has been offered where there's other treatment to be done. And it just makes me sad that our money is not going to aiding the people that are immediately going to MAID. And I understand for a lot of the things it's not as easy, but there are stories that are, right? You have to look at both sides. You have to understand that there's extreme on both sides and we need to call them out, right? So now, again, I think we've crossed a line here in just my opinion and his opinion of his mother's as well, I'm going to say. So this is coming out of Calgary, and this was published January 9th, 2026. A 26-year-old Ontario man has been euthanized by medical assistants in dying despite his doctor describing him as young and healthy. Keanu Vafayan died from MAID on December 30th, something his mother, Margaret Marcilla, announced on a Facebook post on Tuesday, stating the doctor who approved his euthanasia found a loophole to kill her son. Vafayan received MAID in Vancouver by a now household name in MAID, Dr. Ellen Wiebe, referred to as Dr. Death No. 2. Wiebe, a member of the Clinicians Advisory Council for Dying with Dignity Canada and a Canadian MAID lobbying group, and a University of British Columbia professor, has a long history with MAID, as she is one of the leading clinicians contributing to its administration. Reported in 2023 by Right to Life UK, Wiebe had administered MAID to over 400 patients, and in a video obtained by the New Atlantis, Wiebe told listeners at a conference, MAID was the most rewarding work we've ever done. Vafayan had previously tried to apply for MAID in 2022 for diabetes and visual impairment. 4 years ago, here in Ontario, we were able to stop his euthanasia and get him some help. He was alive because people stepped in when he was vulnerable and not capable of making a final, irreversible decision, wrote Marcilla in the Facebook post. Back in early September 2022, Marcilla found out her son had first been scheduled to euthanize himself. And you guys, this is what I'm saying. This is where it's getting scary, where people feel like they're alone. They're going behind, family that does care about them. And again, I'm not saying that there's always answers, and there's so much nuance to this, you guys. So please, in the comment section, don't come at me. I understand nuance, but do you guys understand nuance in extremes as well, right? And is this the final loss, or is there other things that can be done? And most of the time, people in those moments, they feel that's a whole part of the illness, is feeling like there is no answer, there is no escape, when there really is a lot of the time. I'm not saying always, and I'm not saying everyone should live with this, but I've known a lot of people that do, and they're grateful to be alive because they've taken moments where they've almost self-exited themselves, and they're so grateful they're still here. Again, everyone's different, so please just come to that understanding as well. According to the Free Press, Vafayan was 23 years old at the time. He had diabetes and had lost vision in one eye, and he had no job, no girlfriend, and no plan for the future. Marcella then learned Vafayan had applied for MAID for late July, scheduling his death for September 22nd. Vafayan's doctor for MAID was Joshua Tepper, the executive director of MAID House located in Toronto. Tepper had written to Vafayan by email to confirm his scheduled euthanasia. Hi, I'm scheduled to die. The rise of Canada's assisted suicide program, confirming the following timing. Please arrive at 8:30. I will ask for the nurse at 8:45 a.m. and I will start the procedure around 9 a.m. Procedure will be completed a few minutes after it starts. When Marcilla found out about the scheduled appointment by asking her daughter to access Vafayan's email, Marcilla added Vafayan had had a rough time during his life. In his childhood, Marcilla had gotten divorced from his father. On his 16th birthday, she had gotten him a BMW, but not long after, he was 17 and he had gotten a bad car accident. He wasn't up for college and smoked lots of weed while he moved quite a few times, and from living with his dad to his mom, then to his aunt. According to Marcilla, he was unhappy, and once he was blind in his one eye in April 2022, that was his tipping point. Marcella then posted about her son a day after finding out about his scheduled euthanasia appointment. Can you effing believe it? The doctor literally has given him the gun to kill himself, she wrote. Soon after, the Canadian Catholic news site LifeSite got a hold of her post, and Tepper began getting backlash from its readers. Tepper then contacted Marcilla, telling her that he would extend the date of her son's death to September 28th. 5 days later, Tepper texted her again saying he would not go through with killing her son and he wanted nothing to do with Vafan. However, Vafan was still euthanized at the end of 2025 due to mental illness. As Marcilla wrote, this approval occurred despite euthanasia for mental illness being banned until 2027. And people are saying this isn't happening, and it is. Just because your algorithm isn't showing you that doesn't mean that it's not happening. Just as I can understand that because my algorithm shows me the times that it is happening, that it is not necessarily difficult and flawed for people that definitely need it, that are end of life, and if that's what they choose. And you have every right to choose that for yourself. My question is, should our taxpayers' dollars be paying for that unless it's end of life and absolutely the last thing possible? Because I would love our tax dollars instead to go to the missing mental health crisis and lack of support that's out there. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry that I give a fuck about you and I don't want the answer to be death. I know that's not my right to say. I'm gonna say it anyways. Your choice. I'm allowed to have this opinion. Somehow Dr. Death found a loophole in the system, one that now demands to be exposed that no other parent has to endure this. Marcilla is now promising she will seek justice, so parents who have children with mental illness do not have to experience the same thing. The actions of Dr. Ellen Wiebe reveal a pattern of coldness and disregard for vulnerable human life that I can no longer stay silent about. Just that scary smile shows her entitlement for taking people's lives. This is not healthcare. This is failure of ethics, accountability, and humanity. No parent should have to bury their child because of a system and a doctor that chooses death over care, help, and love, Marcilla wrote. I am so sorry, Marcilla. My love goes out to you, your family. I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm sorry if I said any of the last names wrong. As mentioned, terrible at names, but at least we're getting the story out. And I will forever talk about these situations because, again, people sitting here telling me in the comment section, this doesn't happen. You're crazy. You're fear mongering. No, I'm not. And with someone that has people in their lives that have deep depression, that have deep mental health issues, and all it would take is just a silence for a week, and somehow what if someone that I care about gets fast tracked and then that happens? I will not live with myself if I do not say that you are so much, that you are just so important and you are so loved, and if you don't feel that way, please come in my DMs, please message me at the Be Real Babe, the Be Real Babe podcast, to TikTok, Instagram, at the you can email me at theberealbabe@hotmail.com. Anything, I'm always here. Please do not think you're not worth it. Please don't go forward with this because of mental health and depression. Like there's got to be help. There's got to be more help. There's got to be more avenues. And unfortunately, we can sit here and say they've exhausted all avenues when no avenues are available for mental health. That has been cut federally. That is just not a focus. We know it's there. We know that there's a mental health crisis that leads to homelessness, that leads to drug addiction, that leads to so many other things, so much unwellness, so much unhealed shit. But yet there's no support for it. But instead we're going to offer MAIDs. That's where I'm not okay with it. You can have both things. You can support the program for the ways that it was originally designed for that make ethical sense. And then there's lines. And then people get hopped up. There's like savior complexes where people think they're doing things like, and I'm not saying that this woman does. There's people can have those opinions about her. I'm just saying whatever. I'm not saying this person is doing that, but we know that there's cult leaders. We know that there's people in positions that we think that they're there to help, but they're not, and they're not good people. People are still people, right? So maybe we think this is a really good thing, but I'm sorry, I think you're worth it. I think your life's worth it. And you can fucking hate me if I think that. I'm okay with that. Okay, so going on the final story of today, and as mentioned, guys, last Friday, I did publish an episode, Being Real About Missing People of Canada. It is a series that I'm going to be continuing on the podcast, and I have talked about missing people on this episode with Keeping Up with Canada as well. So I wanted to end this episode and this season talking about a missing persons case that has come up. And just like I did in the last episode, I talked about Ryan Shuka that went missing in Sun Peaks. I talked about Amber Manthorn, my friend that went missing in Port Alberni, and I also talked about Cole Hosak, who went missing in Dawson Creek. Those are all 3 open cases that RCMP and investigators need help with. So if you want to go to the Be Real Babe podcast, Spotify, Apple, Rumble, you can find that episode there. And I'm going to leave this one here as well. Now, this article was published in 2025, but I wanted to talk about this case with the, not that's what's happening right now, but when this push came out, because it has all the details about this. And I'm going to post a picture right here of Micheal Dunahee that disappeared 34 years ago in Victoria, BC. So we're going to go to this article. Please screenshot and keep Micheal and your family in the forefront of your thoughts. So it's one case of the country's best known missing person cases. Now, police in Victoria are once again making a public appeal to help solve the disappearance of Micheal Dunahee. Monday, keep in mind this is March 25th, 2025. Monday marked 34 years since the then 4-year-old vanished from a playground at an elementary school in the province's capital. The Victoria Police Department says there's a dedicated tip line set up for any information on Dunahee's possible whereabouts. All it could take is just one person to bring Micheal home. It's shared in a post on social media. Today marks the 34th anniversary of Micheal Dunahee's disappearance. If you have any information, please visit vicpd.ca Micheal Dunahee, and that's Michael Dunahee, or contact VicPD's dedicated tip line at 250-995-7444. All it could take is just one person to bring Micheal home. The case has remained open and investigation is still active. There have been thousands of tips to date, but there has never been anything solid enough for police to lead them to an arrest, police had explained. In November 24, 1991, when the family was on the way to a field for a football game, when Dunahee asked to go to a nearby playground where there were other kids, he went as his parents unloaded the car. His father was supposed to go supervise him, but less than 2 minutes later they turned around and he was gone. In a previous interview with 1130 News Radio, Michael's mother, Crystal Dunahee, says her family has never given up hope. I can't imagine anybody else having to go through what we've been going through. It's a nightmare. It's a continual nightmare because you just don't know, she said. Despite the heartache, she maintains optimistic that they'll find him one day. Over the years, different men have come forward claiming to be the young boy, but none of them have turned out to be him. In 2021, to the mark of the 30th anniversary of his disappearance, police in Victoria released an age-enhanced sketch of Dunahee. They also launched a tip line and online portal for information. I'll post this up here. Anyone with more information on Dunahee is urged to call investigators at 250-995-7444. So again, wanted to bring up these cases the best that we absolutely could in this situation. Please, as I've always mentioned, guys, if you're not new here, take screenshots of these people, keep them in a folder of missing people, keep your eyes up in public. You never know if you're going to be the person that sees one of these missing people. And if you were one of those family members, how grateful would you be for people paying attention, focused in on the case, and always making sure that their missing family members' names never die. And that's why I always want to be bringing up these cases. So expect that in the new season of the show when I air that in April. So you guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around. If you are new here, if you've been around, I appreciate you guys so much. I've been enjoying taking these episodes and putting them on YouTube because I know everyone's always all over the place. Like, I know I love short form and long form content, depends on what I'm doing, and I like making both. So I was like, fuck, why can't I do both? But also, that's 3 episodes a week for a year. I am tired. I am burnt out. My eyes are dry. I cannot look at ring lights anymore. I need to take some time to learn how to record better, edit better, do all the things, and I never take the time because I just go. So 5 years in, 10 seasons, 20,000 on Spotify, Apple, 40,000 on YouTube. This is a great time for me to take a break. As I mentioned, guys, there's so many different episodes of Keeping Up with Canada over the last year. There is 250 some odd episodes of the podcast you can go catch up on. There's Internet Insanity that launches on Wednesdays, ton of those. One more that is launching this Wednesday. And like I said, if you haven't seen the podcast yet, don't worry. Tuesdays and Thursdays, that is coming up for the next 2 months. And then I'm going to return in April with a new setup, new everything, new girly, new everything. But again, thank you guys so much for the support as always. And I'll see you in the next episode. And then if you're not watching Internet Insanity, I will see you in the next season, guys. Thank you. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.